All right, let's unlock some biblical mystery, shall we? Today we're taking a deep dive into Isaiah 45.3, a verse that, well, let's just say it sparked a lot of questions from you, our listeners.
Yeah, it's one of those verses that seems simple enough at first glance, right? God promising treasures to Cyrus the Great. But the more you dig into it, the more layers you uncover.
Exactly. And the phrase that really seemed to capture everyone's imagination, treasures of darkness. I mean, come on, how intriguing is that? So to really understand what's going on here, we need to set the scene. We're talking about Cyrus, king of Persia, a guy who, well, let's just say he knew how to conquer.
And conquer he did. He amassed a crazy amount of wealth along the way.
We're not talking your average kingly riches here, right?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, think about it. He captured cities like Sardis, the capital of King Croesus. Croesus was legendary for his wealth.
Like seriously rich.
Oh, yeah. Ancient historians wrote about Cyrus hauling away thousands of pounds of gold, talents of silver, even Queen Semiramis's prized goblet.
Wait, are we talking about this Semiramis?
Yeah.
The one who supposedly built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
That's the one. So, yeah, we're talking serious wealth here. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about Cyrus being a greedy conqueror.
There was a bigger plan at play.
Much bigger divine plan, in fact.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me because we're talking about a pagan king, someone who didn't even worship the God of Israel, being used as an instrument to fulfill God's purposes. It's like almost a paradox, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this verse so powerful, so thought-provoking. It challenges our assumptions about how God works in the world.
So we have Cyrus over here probably attributing his victories to his own gods, while Isaiah is proclaiming that it's the God of Israel who's orchestrating these events.
On a global scale, no less?
Okay, so this isn't just some ancient history lesson about a king and his riches, is it?
Not at all.
It's a statement about God's power and sovereignty.
His ability to work through anyone, even someone who doesn't acknowledge him, to accomplish his will.
Wow. So what's God saying Cyrus will do with all this power?
Well, Isaiah prophesied that Cyrus would say of Jerusalem, "Let it be rebuilt," and of the temple, "Let its foundations be laid."
Hold on. This isn't just about Cyrus amassing wealth for himself. It's directly tied to the fate of the Israelites, their return to Jerusalem, the rebuilding of the temple. It was all part of this grand plan that God was orchestrating.
A plan that God was working out, even through a king who might not have even fully understood it.
And that brings us back to those treasures of darkness. What do you think they represent?
Well, that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. Because these treasures, they aren't the kind you find in a king's treasury. They're something much deeper, much more enduring.
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper. I can't wait to unpack this more in part 2. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Isaiah 45.3 and those treasures of darkness. Last time we kind of set the stage, right? We talked about Cyrus, his conquest, the historical context.
Yeah, we uncovered some fascinating history, but we just barely scratched the surface of what those treasures might actually represent.
Right, because when we talk about treasures, we usually think of like gold and jewels and riches. Right?
Exactly, but in this case, it seems like those treasures point to something much deeper.
Something spiritual.
Absolutely, something that's often hidden, something that we might have to search for.
So I'm picturing a treasure chest.
Yeah.
But instead of gold and jewels, it's filled with what? Like spiritual insights, wisdom.
Well, think about it this way. Darkness often represents the unknown, the things we can't easily grasp or understand.
Right, it can be a place of fear, uncertainty.
Even suffering. But what if, within that darkness, there's also a potential for growth, for transformation?
So it's not about avoiding the darkness, but about going through it.
Exactly, and finding something valuable on the other side.
Like you can't have the treasure without going through the darkness to get there.
It's a powerful concept, and it's not unique to Isaiah either. We see this idea echoed in other parts of the Bible, in other spiritual traditions.
Well, I know what you mean, like in Romans where Paul talks about how suffering produces perseverance, character, hope.
Precisely. It's not about glorifying suffering, but about recognizing that those experiences can actually shape us, refine us.
It's like those trials and challenges, those dark moments, they can actually lead us to a stronger faith, a deeper understanding of ourselves and God.
And it challenges us to look at those difficult seasons in our lives from a different perspective, right?
Like what if those moments of loss, grief, doubt, what if those are actually opportunities for us to discover something profound?
Something we might not have found otherwise.
Okay, that makes sense. But if these treasures of darkness can be found in adversity, does that mean that positive experiences like joy or peace aren't as valuable?
Oh, not at all. It's not about saying one is better than the other, but sometimes, even in those moments of joy and peace, we can miss out on deeper treasures.
How so?
Well, maybe we become complacent, self-satisfied.
We stop seeking, we stop growing.
Exactly. So even in the light, we can still miss those treasures if we're not open to them.
That's a good point. So it's not just about the external circumstances, it's about our internal state, our willingness to seek, to grow, to learn.
And that brings us to another important aspect of these treasures: humility. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of emptying ourselves, letting go of our ego, in order to truly see and appreciate these gifts.
It's like that saying, you can't fill a cup that's already full.
Exactly. We have to create space to be receptive.
It's not about earning God's favor, but about surrendering to His grace, allowing Him to work in and through us.
It's a journey of letting go and trusting that even in the darkness, we're not alone.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to understand why you said these treasures are more profound than any material wealth. It's not about what we acquire, it's about who we become.
Exactly. It's about transformation, about discovering our true selves.
And you know, it's interesting, this idea of treasures of darkness, it doesn't just live in the Bible or in theological discussions. It's woven into the fabric of human expression, like art, literature, even pop culture.
Oh, absolutely. Think about all the stories, songs, films that explore this idea of finding light in the midst of darkness, beauty emerging from brokenness.
Like the hero's journey in so many myths and stories, right?
Exactly. They face trials, overcome obstacles. They might even have to descend into a metaphorical underworld.
But they come out transformed, stronger.
And we'll explore that more in part 3 of our deep dive because it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to uncover. But for now, I want to bring it back to our listener. What's the key takeaway here?
I think the most important thing is that treasures of darkness aren't just a nice poetic image, they're an invitation.
An invitation to what?
To look deeper, to find meaning and purpose even in the midst of life's challenges, and to remember that God is often at work in ways we might not immediately understand, even in those darkest of times.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive. We've been unpacking Isaiah 45.3, those treasures of darkness. And last time we kind of hinted that this whole idea, it's not just some biblical concept, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It shows up everywhere if you know where to look.
Like, give me an example.
Well, take literature, for instance. Think about all those classic stories about journeys into the unknown.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like the Odyssey, with Odysseus and all those crazy adventures he had.
Exactly. He faces all these challenges, encounters mythical creatures. He even goes down to the underworld.
But he comes back a changed man, right? Wiser, more mature.
Exactly. And it's not just ancient myths either. Look at the Lord of the Rings. You have Frodo and the Fellowship journeying into Mordor, the heart of darkness, right? Facing all those dangers.
But their sacrifices, they ultimately lead to the triumph of good over evil.
It's a classic example of finding light in the darkness.
And even in Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
He constantly has to face the darkness, both literally and metaphorically.
Oh, absolutely. He has to confront his own fears, his own inner demons to defeat Voldemort.
So it's like, you can't have true light without first confronting the darkness.
It's a recurring theme in so many stories.
And it's not just about these epic adventures either, right? What about stories that are more about internal struggles?
Oh, absolutely. Like To Kill a Mockingbird. Scout has to confront the racism and prejudice in her community.
Or The Scarlet Letter.
With Hester Prynne dealing with the shame and social stigma.
They both go through a kind of darkness, but they come out with a deeper understanding of themselves and the world.
It's like those experiences, however painful they shape them, they refine them.
And it's not just literature either, right? What about music?
Oh, music's full of it. Think about how composers use minor keys, dissonance, even silence to create a sense of struggle, darkness, maybe even despair.
But then they resolve those tensions into something beautiful, something transcendent.
Exactly. Like, you know those big dramatic symphonies? Beethoven, for example.
Oh yeah, full of those intense, almost agonizing moments. But there's always that sense of hope, of triumph woven in.
It's like the darkness is a necessary part of the journey.
And even in more modern music, you see it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like Billie Eilish, for example. Her music can be quite dark, moody.
But there's this raw honesty, this vulnerability that resonates with so many people.
It's like she's not afraid to explore those darker emotions, and that's what makes it so powerful.
Okay, so we've got literature, music, what else? What about visual art?
Oh, definitely. Think about the chiaroscuro technique used by Renaissance painters, that interplay of light and shadow.
Oh yeah, like those paintings where there's just a single beam of light highlighting something important, and the rest is all in shadow.
Exactly. It creates this sense of depth, mystery.
Even a little bit of the divine almost.
It makes you focus on what's important, and it leaves the rest to your imagination.
Okay, so we've got literature, music, visual art. What about film?
Oh, film's a gold mine for this kind of stuff. Think about film noir, for example. All those gritty stories, morally ambiguous characters exploring the darker sides of human nature.
Or even some more recent films like Parasite or Joker.
Those films that really delve into those uncomfortable truths about society, about ourselves.
They can be tough to watch, but they force you to confront some important issues.
And that's the power of exploring those treasures of darkness, right? It's not about glorifying suffering or darkness. It's about recognizing that those experiences can lead to growth, transformation.
So it's like an invitation almost.
Yeah.
To be curious about the darkness, to not shy away from it.
But to explore it with courage, with a sense of wonder.
Knowing that there might be something valuable hidden there.
Exactly. And to remember that we're not alone in that journey.
So many artists, writers, musicians, everyday people, they've all grappled with these same themes.
And their work can offer us guidance, solace, even inspiration as we navigate our own dark passages.
Wow, this has been quite a deep dive. We started with a single verse about a king and his treasures, and we ended up exploring the whole human experience across art, history, culture.
And it all points back to this idea that true treasures, they're not always found out in the open.
Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, be willing to confront the darkness, and trust that something beautiful, something meaningful might emerge.
So to our listeners out there, we leave you with this final thought. What treasures of darkness are waiting to be discovered in your own life?
What challenges, what struggles might be holding hidden gems of wisdom, strength, purpose?
You're not alone in this journey. Embrace the darkness, seek the light, and trust that even in the most unexpected places, there are treasures to be found.
Until next time, keep diving deep.